Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. So today we are reading from Bhagavad-Gita chapter 2, text 21. In the last program, the third Saturday last month, we discussed Bhagavad-Gita chapter 2, text 20. Just to recap that verse, the last verse, Na jayate mriyate va kadachat, nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuya, ajo nityam shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So that was the last verse. And this verse, Bhagavad Gita 2.21, is Veda vinashinam nityam, ya enam ajam avyayam, katham sa purusha partha, kam ghatayati hanti kam. Word by word is Veda knows avinashinam, indestructible, nityam, always existing, ya, one who, enam, this, the soul, ajam is unborn, avyayam is immutable, katham, how, sa, that, purusha, person, partha, O partha Arjuna, kam, who, ghatayati, causes to hurt, hanti, kills, come home. Translation: O partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Similarly, violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. Although the justice of the peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of the peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the codes of justice. In Manu Samhita, the law book for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in his next life he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that violence is for supreme justice, and thus Arjuna should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate the man, or rather the soul, cannot be killed. So for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge, so there is no possibility of sinful reaction. Veda vinashinam nityam yainam ajam avyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. Before we discuss, let's do some Mangalarchana prayers. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. नामश्रेष्ठं मनमपि शचिपुत्रम् अत्र स्वरूपम् रूपं तस्याग्रजं रुपुरिं माथुरिं गोष्ठावती राधाकुण्डं गिरिवरं महो राधिका माधवाशम् प्राप्तो यस्य प्रतितकृपया श्रीगुरुं तं नतोऽस्मि वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुत पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हददन्तस्तृणं दन्ते इदं याचे पुनः पुनः श्रीमन्रूपपदाम्बोजं धूलिस्यां जन्म जन्मनि हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Today we are discussing from Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 2, text 21. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajamavyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? These few verses which we have been discussing since last few months has been concentrating on the most important aspect of the spiritual journey, which is the understanding that each and every living entity is eternal and eternally a part and parcel of the Lord. So Krishna mentions the word here, Veda Avinashinam, knows indestructible, one who knows that the Avinashi tu tadvidhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasham aprameyasya natvam shochitum arhasi. So Krishna mentions previously as well that that Avinashin tu tadvidhi yena sarvamidam tata. So that this the real constitutional position of all the living entities is that they are na chahte, they are at any point of time, the eternal living entity is eternally existing. So that is the basis of all spiritual knowledge. if one is engaging in all the devotional activities but is not understanding this, so Atma Tattvam. So Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nrinam Santi Sahasrasa Apashyatam Atma Tattvam Graheshu Grahamedina. This is said by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. That Atma Tattvam, that is the most important realization that can be achieved in the human form of life. The understanding that this external body is just like a cloth. So Krishna mentions Vasamsi Jirani Yatha Vihaya Navani Grananti Naroparani Tatha Shariraya Vihaya Jirnani Anyani Samyati Navani Dehi. The example that Krishna gives is that of Vasamsi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya. So the cloth Navani Grananti, as a person puts on a new cloth and gives up the old cloth, takes off the old cloth. So similarly, Tatha Shariraya Vihaya Jirnani Anyani Samyati Navani Dehi. So similarly, the living entity takes off the old body and puts on the new body. That is a very beautiful example given by Krishna in Bhagavad-Gita about how this external body, mind, intelligent conglomerate is temporary. So it keeps changing. So this is Krishna mentions Dehi nosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantaram prapti dhiras tatra na mohyate. So because there is the Dehi, the proprietor of the body within the body, asmin dehe, dehinosmin yatha dehe, there is the childhood, youth, and the old age that is taking place. So the kaumaram yauvanam jara. So there is the childhood, the yauvanam, the youth, and jara, the old age. Tatha dehantaram prapti. So similarly, after the old age, what is going to happen? Deha antaram. So the body is given up. Dhiras tatra na mohyati. And a sober person is therefore not bewildered by these changes, the changes that are constantly happening in the material world. So the scriptures also mention about the 6 kinds of changes that happen. Shadvikar it is called. So there are 6 kinds of changes that happen in the material realm. So the first is the body takes birth. So that is a starting. Then it grows. The body is growing. Then it stays. The third is it stays. The fourth is it produces byproducts. Fifth is it starts dwindling, and the sixth is it vanishes. So this is the it's called Shadvikar, the 6 kinds of changes that happen in the material world. It starts from the birth of the body and ends when the body gets vanished out of the sight. It goes out of the sight. And in between there is the growth, there is a staying of the body at a particular juncture, there is byproducts, production of the byproducts, and then dwindling. And so this is the changes that takes place within the material realm. Whereas the original, we originally are not susceptible to all these changes. We are Ananda Chinmaya. Ananda Chinmaya Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabhi. So Krishna is called Ananda Chinmaya Vigraha. So he is Satchidananda Vigraha. So truth, eternality, and bliss. So truth means that the existence is eternal, and when we know that, and when we engage in the devotional service of the Lord, we experience the Ananda. So how is the Ananda experienced? That is, there is Brahmanandam and there is Parabrahmanandam. So there is so the Brahmanandam is that Brahmabhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kamshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. This is called the Brahmanandam. So what happens in the Brahmanandam is that Prasannatma. So in that state of Brahman realization, or the realization that Aham Brahmasmi, that I am eternal, that realization, what is happening in that realization is Prasannatma. So one is happy, irrespective of the circumstances, one is happy. That is the Brahmananda, that bliss that is coming from Brahman. The realization that whatever sorrows or whatever so-called happiness is there in this material world, Dvaite Bhadra Bhadra Sakali Saman, Ya Manda Ya Bhala Sab Manodharma. This is said by Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that what he's saying is in the realm of duality, so there is Dvaita. So there is in the material world, it is the nature of material world is that it is duality. There is duality. So in the material world, it's never a time. There is never a time that one will always be unhappy, and there'll be never a time when one will always be happy. So it will always oscillate between happiness and unhappiness, happiness and unhappiness. So there'll be a constant oscillation. Whereas in the spiritual world, there is only bliss. There is only this inclination to serve the Lord, irrespective of any changes that is happening outside. And that is the natural inclination of all the living entities. So, Jivere Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas, Krishna se tatastha shakti bheda bheda prakash. सूर्यांश किरण यथा अग्नि ज्वाला छाया कृष्णेर तीन प्रकार शक्ति हाया. So it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that this the real original nature of all the living entities is Jivera Swarup. So that's the original nature. Haya Krishnera Nityadas. They are eternally servants of Krishna. So that in the service, so the bliss is available in the service of the Lord. When the Lord is being served, there is an exchange of service and emotions taking place between the Lord and the devotee, and that is the source of all pleasure. And that bliss cannot be checked under any circumstances. Ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. This is said that in Srimad Bhagavatam, that what is the topmost paro dharma, the topmost religious activity that one can get involved in. That is for all the living entities, especially in the human form of life. What is it? Yato bhaktir adokshaje. It is a loving devotional service to the Lord who cannot be known by blunt material senses. That is adhakrita akshaja. Akshaja is eyes, and adhakrita is the blunt material eyes. So one who cannot be known by the blunt, cannot be seen by the blunt material eyes. So to see the Lord, one needs to have that this premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. So one has to anoint one's eyes with the love of God. Then the Lord can be seen. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. In that state, when one has anointed their eyes with the love of Lord, one can see the Lord always. Santa Sadaiva, always. Hridayeshu vilokayanti. And the saintly people see him in their hearts. not only in the hearts, everywhere. Yomam pashyati sarvatra, sarvam cha me pashyati, tasyaham na pranashyami, sacha me na pranashyati. Krishna personally mentions in Bhagavad-Gita that one who sees me in everything and everyone in me. So, tasyaham na pranashyami, sacha me na. Such a person never forgets me, and I never forget such a person. This is the reciprocal relationship between the Lord and the devotee. That the devotee is always seeing the Lord everywhere in the form of his energy. So Mamcha, so Krishna mentions, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagada vyaktamurtina matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham teshu avasthita. So Krishna mentions that that I am pervaded everywhere in the form of my energies. So bhumirapo analo vayu kham mana buddhirevacha ahankaram itiyam me bhinna prakritir ashtadha. So there is the energies. There is so we got this inferior energy and the superior energy of the Lord. So the inferior energy is the eight energies that in part. The inferior energy has got this 8 different forms, which is starting from bhumi, apa, anala, vayu, kham, mana, buddhi, ahankaram. So that's earth, water, fire, air, sky, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So these are the 8 bhinna prakriti ashtadha. So these are the 8 kinds of separated inferior energies of the Lord. Then apareyam itastu anyam vidhi me prakritim param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Then Krishna says that these are all my 8 separated inferior energies, but superior to them is the energy of jiva bhuta. So who is the jiva bhuta? The living entity. So this is the living entity who is part and parcel of the Lord. So mame vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. So this is so because the living entities are part and parcel of the Lord, they have that same Satchidananda, the constitutional whatever is constitutionally they have inside them is whatever the Lord has within him. The difference being that the living entities are smaller than the smallest. Anor aniyan mahato mahiyan. So this is mentioned in the scriptures that how the Lord is smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest. So so this is a lot, and the living entities are so we actually see in the previous verses, in the purports in the previous verses as well, where Srila Prabhupada quotes the Upanishads to mention the example given of how small that living entity is, which we all are. So the Keshagra Shata Bhagasya Shatadha Kalpitasya Cha Jiva Bhagas Tadavignyam So Anantyaya Cha Kalpate. So the example that the scriptures give is that we take the tip of the hair, cut it into 100 parts, and that 100th part again you cut it into 100 parts. So 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. So that is just a simile given in terms of the understanding of how minute the living entity is. So it is just to point in the direction of the minuteness. So that's why it's called aprameya. So it cannot be measured. It's just an example given there. So and the nityam. So Veda avinashinam nityam, always existing. Ya enam, who is this? This is a soul. Ajam avyayam. So unborn and immutable. So this is the thing. Ajam avyayam. So this janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. So indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankaram evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. So Krishna mentions what are the qualities of a person who is engaging in the loving devotional service of the Lord. So janma mrityu jara vyadhi. So indriyartheshu vairagyam. So the first quality is that indriya artha. So the sense objects. The senses are always attracted to the sense objects, especially the matter, the attraction to the matter, because senses are actually matter, and the sense objects are also matter. So the matter is getting attracted to another matter. But what is the cause of the senses getting attached to the sense objects? The cause is coming directly from the spirit soul, because spirit soul is animating the living entities. If the spirit soul is not there, then the living entities are dead matter. They cannot do anything. They're just lying there as an object. So they actually become the sense object then. But sense objects are perceivable because of the presence of the soul. So this is very important to understand that that the senses and the sense objects cannot interact with each other unless the spirit soul is present within the body of the living entity. So therefore, but one of the qualities of the spirit soul is that it is independent, just like the Lord, independent in the sense that it is not dependent on the material accumulations. So the soul does not need food. The material body needs food, but the food for the soul is the loving devotional service to the Lord. That is bhakti paraisha anubhava virakti ranyatra syat eshatrika ekakala prapadyamanasya yad ashnutasya tushti pushti kshudapaya anughasam. This is said in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is defining what actually is bhakti. So it says that bhakti means para isha anubhava. So anubhava is experience, and para isha is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So bhakti is experiencing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The experience that happens in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is bhakti. It's experiential. It is actually it is experienced by the devotees because Shraddhavan Jana Haya Bhakti Adhikari Kanishta Madhyama Uttama Shraddha Anusari. So who actually is qualified to associate with the Lord? One who has who so we see this Indriyartheshu Vairagya. When we started this, there is that what we said was Indriyartheshu Vairagya. So the devotee is not attached to the sense objects. The senses of the devotee is not attached to the sense objects. Why? Because Maya Asakta Manapartha Yogam Yunjam Madashrayam. So Yogam Asamshayam Samagra Mam Yatha Jnasisi Tachrunu. So why the devotee is not attached to the sense objects? The senses of the devotees are not attached to the sense objects. Why? Because Mai Asakta Manapartha. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita that attach your mind to me. Mai Asakta. Attach your mind to me. Manapartha. Yogam Yunjam Madashrayam. And you do the yogas in surrender to me. Madashrayam, where you are taking shelter of me. By taking shelter of me, you do the yoga by attaching your mind to me. Maya Asakta Manapartha Yogam Yunjam Madashrayam Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasasi. So Krishna says undoubtedly, Asamshayam Samagram Mam. You will know me in total, 100% you will know me. Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasyasi. You will know me tat shrunu. So therefore you listen, you hear. So Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam. When one is engaged in hearing about the Lord Shrinvatam, what Swakatha Krishna, about Krishna's talks. So Krishna's talk in Bhagavad-Gita and Krishna's stories in Srimad Bhagavatam. And we go even further into Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's story in Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavata. There are so many scriptures. So when one is engaged in hearing about all these transcendental pastimes of the Lord, then what is happening is Shrinatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. So this activity by itself is very pious. When one is being engaged in Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, so hearing and talking about the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, then but the activity by itself is very pious. Punya Shravana Kirtana. Hridi Antastohi Abhadrani. So whatever Abhadra, Bhadra and Abhadra. So so we have Subhadra. So Bhadra is so when it is Abhadra, it is inauspicious, and Subhadra is very auspicious, extremely auspicious. So so whatever is inauspiciousness in the heart is there, Kriti Antastha, and it is inside the heart. There are so many, because since time immemorial, the living entity has been taking birth, and every time the living entity has taken a birth, there is a material layer that has got accumulated in terms of the understanding of our real nature. So because of that, therefore that needs to be cleansed. Malinir mochanam pumsam jalasnanam dine dine sakrit gitam basi snanam sansara mala mochanam. This is very beautifully said in the Gita Mahatmya, that malinir mochanam pumsam jalasnanam dine dine, that in order to take out the impurities in the body, one takes bath every day. So this is especially in the Vedic tradition, the cleanliness aspect is really given a huge importance, and especially the Brahmanas follow so many rules of cleanliness. So the basic rule is every day person is taking bath to clean the body. So the Malinir Mochanam Pumsam Jalasnanam Dine Dine Sakrit Gitam Basi Snanam Samsara Mala Mochanam. So that just once, if one takes this bath for using through Bhagavad-Gita. So by discussing Bhagavad-Gita, by thinking about what the Lord has said, if one takes bath in that way, the bath of the mind, the bath of the intelligence, the bath of the spirit. So all that bath is taking place when the discussion of Bhagavad-Gita and all these wonderful spiritual subjects are taking place. So Sakrit Gitambasi Sanam Sansara Malamochanam. So this samsara, so this material world is called samsara. This where the one is the whole concept is based on matter, the material world. That's why it is called material world, because the primary thing that we see in this world is matter. We don't see spirit, even though spirit is the reason that we are able to see anything. It's a very ironic situation we are in. That the spirit is the cause of us actually being conscious. Otherwise we are not conscious. Without spirit, we cannot be conscious. There is a difference between a living body and a dead body. What is the difference? The spirit spark is absent in the dead body. Otherwise, everything is there in the body. What is missing? Why is one person called dead and one person called living? The spirit spark is missing, and that consciousness is the symptom of the spirit soul. So this Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. So Chaitanya is consciousness. So that is a symptom of the soul. When someone is conscious, that means they have the spirit spark in them. When someone's body is not doing anything, that means the spirit spark has gone. So this so we were in terms of understanding of indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankaram evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. So this is a very beautiful verse where Krishna is mentioning what are the qualities of the devotee of the Lord. The first quality is indriyartheshu vairagyam. So there is detachment from the sense objects. So they're not attached to the sense objects. It doesn't mean that they're not doing the daily activities of whatever has to be done. So the devotees are doing that. The only thing is they are not attached to the activities themselves. The only thing they are attached to is in terms of rendering loving devotional service to the Lord. That is their only attachment. There is no attachment, no other attachment. So we see that bhakti paraisha anubhava viraktir anyatra syat. So there is when this experiential knowledge of experiential understanding and experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is there, automatically there is viraktir. There is detachment from everything else. Anyatra syat. Bhakti paresha anubhava viraktir esha trika ekakala prapadyamanasya yadashnutasya. So bhakti paresha anubhava viraktir anyatra syat. So there are three types. So when one is involved in devotional service, so the involvement of devotional service causes the experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which automatically gives one detachment from everything material. So this is given in terms of the example of prapadya manyasya. So when one is surrendered to the Lord, one has got the devotional service, one has got the experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one has got detachment from everything material. So this is compared similar to prapadya manyasya yadashnutasya tushti pushti kshudapaya anugasham. So the example given is when one is hungry and one is eating food, the first thing that is happening is one is getting tushti, one is getting satisfied. Pushti, one is getting the mind is getting, so the body is getting the food, the mind is getting satisfied, and the hunger is getting dissolved. The hunger is no longer there. So similar. So this is the example given. Just like when one starts eating, one feels satisfied in the mind, one feels satisfied in the body, and the hunger dissipates away. So similarly, when one is engaged in devotional service, one is surrendered to the Lord, one experiences the Lord, and one gets detached from the material sense objects. So this is a very beautiful example given. So that's how this indriyartheshu vairagyam is taking place. This detachment from all the objects, sense and the sense objects. Anahankaram evacha. This is very important. The second point, anahankaram. This ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha. Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. This is said by Krishna in Bhagavad-Gita that all the activities are being performed by the modes of material nature. So, for example, we are in the mode of goodness now, and we are involved in this discussion about the Lord. In the mode of passion, the main engagement would be in terms of this rajasa lobha evacha. So there is a lot of greed in the mode of passion, greed and arrogance, and all those qualities are prominent in the mode of passion. And in the mode of ignorance, it is laziness is the main laziness, and one is in a kind of hypnotic state of mind of totally not doing anything, in the hypnosis of not doing anything. So that is the ignorance. So pramada moho tamaso bhavato ajnanam evacha. So that is total ignorance. That is state of total ignorance. So the material body is always under the influence of these three modes of material nature, and the fourth is the transcendental state, the Vishuddha Sattva. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. So this is said by Lord Shiva in Srimad Bhagavatam about what is, so that's the Vasudeva Sattva. So Vishuddha Sattva. So in that state, that is a state of transcendental state, where one is in touch with the Supreme Lord. So that then there is no tatra ko moho ka shoka ekatvam anupashyata. So in that state there is no so Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kangshati. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. That is said by Krishna that when one is in that state of Brahman understanding, Aham Brahmasmi, one is fully in a blissful state and there is no shochati kangshati. So first of all, there is no hankering. Why there is no hankering? Because the hankering only happens in relation to the material body. The hankering is not there when we realize that we are eternal. When we are always existing, and when we have everything in us, what do we need? Nothing is needed. So that's what the eternal soul. We eternally are like that. We don't need anything. The only thing that the soul needs is this relationship with the Lord. That's the only thing that the soul needs, because it is eternally related. Because the soul is eternal, and the relationship between the soul and the Lord is eternal, the spirit, soul, and the Lord. And therefore, that's the only thing that the soul needs, to know our original nature as someone who has been existing before the birth of this body, and someone who will continue to exist after the death of this body. So someone who is eternally existing and eternally related with the Lord. So this is the understanding that is needed. So we see this ajam, the word ya enam ajam avyayam. So then therefore there is no janma mrityu jara vyadhi. This birth, death, old age, and disease. That is the nature of this material world. That's why Krishna says, "Dukkhalayam ashashvatam, mamupetya punarjanmam dukkhalayam ashashvatam, napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata." So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita that once one attains me, then one does not need to take a punarjanma. Janma karmam cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanmam naiti mameti so Arjuna. One who understands that Krishna's birth and Krishna's activities are transcendental and divine, tyaktva deham punarjanmam naiti. After giving up this body, one does not take another body. Then what happens to such a person? Mameti, so Arjuna. He comes back to me. So this in this material world is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Mamupetya punarjanmam dukkhalayam ashashvatam. So it is an abode of misery, it is called. Why is it an abode of misery? Because the living entity is eternal. And that's why the living entity does not want to die. When it takes up a material body, it is a state which is not the natural state of the living entity. The natural state of the living entity is being eternal, not needing anything. But when the body is taken up by the living entity, the body has got a start date and an end date. So janma and mrityu. So then it is a position which is not. It's an external position. It's not like a fish has been taken out of water. So can fish survive outside water? No. So that's what is happening when the living entity is in the material world. It is like fish out of the water. And how can the fish get it back into the water? When this relationship is established with the Lord. Then the fish is inside the water, even though externally it might appear that it is outside the water. When the relationship, when we that's why this is called the science of self-realization. So self-realization, when one understands that one is eternal, then all these changes that are happening is taken as something that is external, that is not me. So because I am eternal, so all these changes that are taking place is something that I am constantly seeing it. As an eternal spirit soul, I'm constantly seeing, just like from our body, as a body, mind, intelligence conglomerate, we are seeing everything externally to us, and we see that those things are external to me. I am this body, mind, intelligence conglomerate, and everything happening outside is external to me. Similarly, when one is self-realized, when one knows that one is eternal, then one has gone inside again, one more step inside, the real inside, and then one sees the external body, mind, intelligence as external again. It's not something that I am. It is something that that is that is that is just a temporary covering that I have, which will come and go, which will come and go, until the point when I know that this is, until the point I realize 100% that this is temporary. Because some kind of realization is only at a mental level. It's not at an experiential level. So until we reach the state of experiential level where we know 100% that that I am eternal, the cycle of birth and death has to take place, because the cycle of birth and death is based on the premise on this ichha dvesha samuddhena dvandva mohena bharata. So sarge yanti parantapa, sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. So it is this ichha and dvesha samuddhena. So that this so because I have a particular mind, intelligence, and body conglomerate, I have some things I am very much attached to, and some things I very much despise. So ichha and dvesha. So this, when this duality, when I'm in this pendulum of duality, it keeps on continuing. The pendulum keeps on continuing of duality. But when I realize that this duality is just external, it is not who I am, because I am I'm eternal. I'm eternally related to the Lord. In that, when one is 100% in experienced state, then there is this beautiful, for the Ambarish Maharaj, there is this beautiful verse where it says, Vasudeve Bhagavati Tad Bhakteshu Cha Sadhushu Praptam Bhavam Param Vishwam Yenedam Loshtravat Smrita. This is said about Ambarish Maharaj, who was the emperor of the whole world, but he was totally detached from the only activity that he was interested in was rendering loving devotional service to the Lord. Everything else he was detached from. It doesn't mean that he was not involved in doing his emperor activities. He was still doing everything. Like another example is Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj is the same, where he was doing everything, all the activities, but at the same time he was internally and even externally, whatever time was available, he was concentrating on rendering loving devotional service to the Lord. Whatever time outside all the administrative activities that had to be carried out, administrative and family activity and everything else, whatever time is available in between, that is being dedicated as an offering to the Lord. And even the activities that are normally performed, it is being dedicated as being performed as a service to the Lord. So tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yuddhacha mayarpita manorbutir yumad bhakta na samshaya. So this is Krishna mentions that at every point you remember me and you fight. So that is what Krishna says to Arjuna. And this is what these great devotees like Ambarish Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, and all, like Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapilo Manu Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Balir Vaiyasakir Vayam. There's 12 Mahajans. There's Mahajano Yenagatha Sapantha. So the path that the Mahajans are followed has to be followed in terms of so Narada Shambhu, Swayambhu Narada Shambhu. So Lord Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, Kumara, the four Kumaras, Kapila Dev, Manu, Prahlad, Bhakta Prahlad, Janaka, Bhishma, Bali, Lord Bali, Maharaj, and Vaiyasaki. There is Shukadeva Goswami and Yamraj himself. So Vayam. So all this, they are the 12 Mahajans, and Ambarish Maharaj is also the follower of Mahajan, where it is said about him that Vasudeve Bhagavati Tad Bhakteshu Cha Sadhushu. It is said about Ambarish Maharaj that he was involved in Vasudeva Bhagavati. the devotional service of Vasudeva, tad bhakteshu cha sadhushu, and also the loving, also serving his devotees and all the saintly people. Prapto bhavam param vishwam yenedam loshravat smrutam. So when one has attained that bhava, that state of mind of constantly being engaged in the loving devotional service of the Lord, his devotees and all the saintly people, prapto bhavam, param, and there is a param bhavam. It is param bhavam ajananta, mama bhuta maheshwaram. So avajananti mamura manushim tanumashritam, param bhavam ajananta, mama bhuta maheshwaram. So this param bhavam, so this transcendental state. Then when one has attained the transcendental state, what is happening? Prapto bhavam param vishwam, vishwam yenedam loshravat smritam. So it is said that this whole this whole material world seems like it doesn't so Amrish Maharaj was the emperor of the whole world. He had everything at his service, but he was considering everything as just a stone, as an ordinary stone. He would have jewels, but he's not attached to those jewels, invaluable jewels, but he's considering everything as a stone, as a just as because of the intensity of the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva Bhagavati. And we have another Vasudeva Bhagavati shloka as well, Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayada Haitukam. So this is another statement in Srimad Bhagavatam, that Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. So when one is in rendering the loving devotional service to the Lord, then Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, Janayati Ashu Vairagyam. Very soon, this detachment automatically comes as a result of when the loving devotional service is being performed. Detachment and knowledge automatically comes as part of that. It's not to be aimed separately. This is the difference between the impersonal path and the personal path of bhakti. Klesho adhikaras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakto hi gatir dukham dehavad bhir avapyate. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita that one who is doing the avyakta, the impersonal path, klesho adhikaras tesham. So one has got, so the impersonal path has got a lot of klesha, a lot of troubles, adhikara, lots, innumerable. Avyakto hi gatir dukham dehavad bhir avapyate. Because by nature in the material world, we are practicing this devotion, whatever spiritual practice we are practicing. It is based on this deha. It is based on the body, and therefore the impersonal conception cannot be understood. When we have a body, we cannot, and it becomes very difficult to that impersonal path. Krishna himself is saying that Klesho adhikaras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakto hi gatir dukham dehavad bhiravapyate. So what is that path then? The path is where one is rendering devotional service to the Lord. So bhaktya to ananya shakya aham eva vidho arjuna gyatam drishtum cha tatvena praveshtam cha parantapa. So Krishna says that bhaktya to ananya shakya. So through the constant devotional service, aham eva vidho arjuna. You can know me, Arjuna. Not only that, gyatam drishtam cha tatvena. You can know me in truth. Know me fully in truth. You can see me, drishtam cha tatvena, praveshtam cha parantapa, and you can enter my abode. So this is what Krishna is saying. When we are discussing this verse where katham sa purusha partha kam ghātayati hantikam. So how can anyone kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So this is what is said in this verse. When one knows that one is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable, how can one kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So because all that is happening is in terms of the body. But what we are saying is body is temporary. Na sato vidyate bhavo Nabhava vidyate sata ubhyorapi drishtantas tvanayos tattvadarshibhi. So tattvadarshi. So this is one who is seeing the real truth. They're saying that that which is temporary has no existence, and that which is eternal is eternally existing. It can never not exist. So, so this is the seers of the truth are saying that. So that means that that the changing body is temporary, and therefore it is similar to having no existence. The only difference what we see in terms of the Vaishnava philosophy is that we say that even though it is temporary, because we are seeing at it at this moment, we say that it is existing. But that doesn't mean that it is same as the soul. So it's a same as our eternal. The material nature is eternally uh, going through the changes, whereas the soul is eternally existing. It is existential, uh, and material nature is constantly changing. So this change, and whatever is constantly changing is something that is only existing at that particular moment. But at the next moment, it is something else. At the next moment, it is again something else. So that change is constantly happening in this material world. And that's why this Kaumaram, Yavanam, Jara that we discussed before is taking place, that this childhood, youth, and old age, that we see it as three different states, but in between there are so many constantly changing states that is causing this. Every moment there is change happening, and that is what is causing this. Uh, a child to become a youth to become an old man, and then the old man to actually finally giving up the body. So it's a constant change, which and then it's again this the cycle is starting again. The cycle of birth and death. So iha samsare bahudustare kripya pare pahi murare. So therefore, Shankaracharya says that it's very difficult to overcome this uttishta jagrata prapya varan nibodhya. So it is said in the Vedas as well that therefore one has to wake up uttishta jagrata prapya varan nibodha kshurasya dhara nishita duratyaya durgama patitas tat kavayo vadanti. So it is said in the Upanishad that it is the path is very durgama, and it's like a razor's edge. It's like walking on a razor's edge. Uh, Kavayo vadanti. All the saintly great devotees are saying this that the spiritual path is like walking on a razor's edge. Uh, so duratyaya, durgama duratyaya, mama maya duratyaya, mameva ye prapadyante maya mitam tarantite. Krishna says that Devi Yesha Gunamayi Maya Duratyaya. So it is very difficult to cross over this cycle of birth and death. But Mameva Ye Prapadyante. One who surrenders onto me, Maya Metam Tarantite. So Krishna gives the guarantee that he will help that person to overcome, because who can, if in an ocean of birth and death, it is a ship that saves. Through swimming, one cannot cross the ocean. One has to have a ship, uh, and in that ship, one can cross the ocean. And that ship is the Guru Karnadharam. So it is like Mayanukulena Nabhasvatiritam Puman Bhavadbhiya Nataret Sa Atmaha Nridehamadyam Sulabham Sudurlabham Plavam Sukalpam Guru Karnadharam. So this human form of life is said to be like the boat that is helping the living entity to cross the ocean of birth and death. Nridehamadyam Sulabham Sudurlabham Plavam Sukalpam Guru Karnadharam. Guru is the captain of the ship. Mayanukulena Nabhasvatiritam. And Krishna is sending the wind in the right direction so that the boat can cross over the ocean of birth and death. Puman Bhavadbhiya Nataret Sa Atmaha. And in that, when one has the boat, when one has the captain of the ship, and one has the proper conditions to cross the ocean of birth and death, and even in that condition, if one does not cross the ocean, then it's a Atmaha. So unfortunately, such a person is uh, unfortunately not using the human form of life in the right way. So we can just go to the purport as well, to the conclusion of the purport. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge, so there is no possibility of sinful reaction. So, because Krishna is transcendental, he is not subject to the normal problems that a living entity has in the material body. That is Brahma, Pramada, Vipralipsa, and Karana Patva. Being under illusion, cheating propensity, and in imperfect senses. So all this is absent. Committing mistakes, all this is absent in Krishna because he's transcendental, and therefore, whatever Krishna is saying would always be uh, allowing the living entity to uh, come out of this cycle of birth and death and be absorbed in the unending bliss that is always available. It's only a matter of cleaning up, and this is the real independence. So, so today, coincidentally, is the Independence Day for India. But the real independence that all the living entities can have in the human form of life is when one can have that eternal enjoyment in relationship with the Lord. Ramante yogina anante satyanande chidatmani iti rama padenashu param brahma abhidiyate. So so therefore the name of the Lord is also Rama, because one can eternally be in a blissful state in association with the Lord. And that is the real independence. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamstu. Hare Krishna. Om Namo